It's Tuesday, May 29th. We hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day.
Beautiful day, I'm feeling good. Gonna make some moves. No more shoulda, coulda. No time to waste, got nothing to lose. Now it's time to move forward. All I can be. So glad to be free. 'Cause I know if I try, no matter how I'm feeling, I can fly high. Ooh, no ceiling. I'll do my best. I ain't gonna stress, 'cause I'm taking care of business. Strictly business.
Today we're going to discuss the biggest mistakes with customers and how we were able to make those mistakes right. One example of an incident that happened last month was Starbucks, where two black men were having a business meeting when the manager called the police and had them arrested for not purchasing anything. Now, today, the CEO is making up for that mistake, closing down 8,000 of its Starbucks location for training. How do you feel about that? Was that taken care of properly? And then we want to discuss the biggest mistakes we made and how we were able to make that right.
I think that the way the CEO came forward and in front of it, because there was so much debate, there wasn't even time to debate about how he handled it, because he got in front of it, he took accountability, he did not make any excuses. He stated what the policy was and basically shared that the employee was wrong in having the police officers come. Now, I don't have a dog in the race because I know there's boycotts going everywhere with people not, supporting Starbucks. But when I think about how the CEO handled it, there was a way that he could have handled it to be safe, to play it safe. And he chose to take a stand and he put out a heartfelt apology. He has 8,000 locations being shut down today because of he wants his employees trained on racial bias. And I think the education piece is important, and the fact that he stated what the policy was to end that part of the debate. And how the police officers handle it and how the chief of police came out is what I think I'm more concerned about, because discretion wasn't used. And so I think
do they count, Well, they do count, but from a public relations standpoint, I think what more can you ask for? It was crisis resolution. They addressed the problem, acknowledged it, and they're taking action against it. What more can you ask for? I mean, I'm sorry the situation ever happened, but I mean, it's being dealt with. I think it's perfect. Yeah. Perfect, handled in the way it should be handled, I should say,
Right.
in light of what's happened.
Right. I agree. What are some mistakes you made either on your job or in your business, and how were you able to make that right?
Well, I'll make this short and sweet. Yes. Okay. Business is booming. It's getting better, and I'm really appreciative. But one thing I realized is that my lack of consistency with how I'm receiving appointments was a detriment to me. So I missed a customer's appointment. It was an early morning, a customer appointment. She was on time. I was lying in the bed. I thought I had an appointment. Nah, it's like I don't have anything to do. And she was at my door ringing, trying to get in. Long and short, it was a big event going on in Rochester, and she was one of the planners of that event. And I really wanted to make a good impression, so I felt terrible. Now I had to acknowledge it. Got there as quickly as possible. Within half an hour, gave her a free appointment. I did her as if she was the president's wife, and she looked gorgeous. And I gave her a gift certificate to come back and see me. So I acknowledged my wrongdoing. And now Charlene's almost done with my website, so that people can go directly there to make appointments and payments. So
Makes it easier.
Right. And I know for us, we did the wording wrong on this shirt, so we had to correct that. We sent them a new shirt. They didn't have to pay for shipping and everything, but customer service is big on your business, because you want your customer to come back, and you want them to pass the word on your business. So we had to correct that incident.
Best way to handle it.
Yeah.
I'm saying healthcare, customer service is big too, right? So we want to make sure we're satisfying patients. So although there hasn't been one specific incident I would just say in everyday work, it's making sure that we do our best to make sure we give patients what they want and make sure they're satisfied. And hospitals do get rated on satisfaction by patients. So it's always about keeping up with those just again making sure that the patients are comfortable and that
That's right.
things are going well with them. So always checking in.
Good job.
Yeah.
I would add on to that to say, just in business, you need to have a follow-up and a follow-through, and just to make sure that you have systems in place that can allow you to schedule or to reach out to people, to check emails all the time, check your voicemails. There was one point where I had like 40 voicemails, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. You check your voicemails, check your emails, and 8,000 emails unread. And so I think that's my biggest pet peeve when dealing with a company is sending an email and not getting a response. Or if they say reach out on Facebook, sending them a Facebook message, not getting a response. So just being, proactive in that area.
Have you ever had a customer who, let's say, was not satisfied with a website or photography or videography that you've done for them? If that ever happened, how would you handle that situation?
It's a little different with the websites because we send out a web form. They fill out what they want, give us examples of different sites. So it's a back and forth thing with that, and then it launches when they're ready for it to launch. So it's a little different in that. But yeah, we did have some customers who weren't satisfied with their pictures, but even in that, you take the picture over. So it's not like they leave dissatisfied.
But
They'll
you do
retake
accommodate the
picture and
customer, so
reaccount.
that's
Right.
how you handle it. Good job. And not taking it personal. Okay, this is your product.
Right.
Let me do it the way you want. Good. Okay.
And it's also about being clear for your business hours, just business in general. Because, sometimes they don't get back to you on Facebook, but is it in their descriptive of, okay, we're closed, we're not going to answer emails at a certain time? You know what I'm saying? That's important too, because I know for us, we had to set boundaries because we can work all day, 7 days of the week, and not shut it down.
Right.
So I know now, like after a certain time, we don't answer emails. We don't answer phone calls. We not doing shirt orders. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we got to make that time. Time is valuable.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
it's about that too.
Right. I've taken text messages up until 11 o'clock, and or even out to dinner with my husband, and I'm eating with, responding to a text. So you're right. The boundaries are very important.
Yeah.
I think I've had some time where I had to be flexible with boundaries with coaching, because when I was going through a process with someone who was really trying to make healthy lifestyle choices. So the 2 a.m. Twinkie, but at 11 o'clock, I need some options for something else to eat right now. Well, it's 11 o'clock at night, so maybe Wegmans is an option to go into the fruit area. But I want to get back to the piece about the follow-up, and I think that is one of the biggest areas that consumers complain about. One is, I think, not following up, and two is not being heard. So sometimes when a customer needs to complain, sometimes they just want to know that you heard them and that you're going to correct it. But the follow-up piece, because there's so many different things you can do now, even with social media, with my business, there's a message that automatically pops back on my Facebook page that lets the person know that I'll be back momentarily, and then I'll get notified. And if I receive an email, if I can't answer the question, I will at least acknowledge receipt. And I think that's critically important. But I've had the same issue with the client in terms of either running behind for an appointment and making sure we want to value other people's time, because if people are working with you for your business, our time is valuable, but their time is even valuable because they could go to anyone else for their product. And so taking that seriously and honoring people's time, following up, being consistent, and making sure they're heard as our clients about our products is important.
I think that's key, and both of you guys said is communication. I just got to be in constant communication, expectations, and what I can give.
Yeah, providing services, so we're here to service you.
Yeah, and also, and if you can't do that certain part of the business, send them to somebody else. Don't withhold the information because you don't want them to go somebody else. No, send that information so that next person can get that business, especially if you can't do it. And don't be afraid to say, "I'm sorry, I can't honor that." So. Yeah.
Or if it is a service you have, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Find a volunteer, get an intern, hire someone part-time if you need to, just to be able to help you with your workload.
That's good. Yeah.
That's why we're together, just to share these tips amongst each other.
That's right. Absolutely. And on that note, we will be right back. Welcome back. So, ladies, we were talking about the biggest mistakes we've made in business and how we made it right. Now we want to talk about what was our best achievement, what we're most proud of that we achieved, either in personal or business.
I would say personally would be at a young age getting my degree, my accounting degree from MCC. It was tough because I didn't go to school for accounting. I started out in computer information systems and decided I didn't like it or whatever else. But that was a big accomplishment for me because I was a single teenage mom at the time. And I took a year off after high school, but to graduate when I did, and I stayed on course after I decided I needed to change my major, and I've been working with numbers ever since. And I enjoy it, so I feel that's my biggest achievement.
Very proud of you.
Thank you.
Coming from a non-numbers person, that's pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
Nice.
Well, I was going to say for me, obviously, y'all know just last month I completed my doctorate education. So for me, thank you. That was the biggest accomplishment. And I think for me, starting off as a teenage mom and that whole journey, it's taken me 18 years to get this doctorate, and throughout that had some struggles with nursing school, failed my first maternity course and got pushed back. I failed my nursing state boards and got pushed back. So there have always been hurdles I had to continue to climb, and being a single parent through a lot of this was not easy. But God, right, was able to help me to get through. Now I'm in a good career. I work for an awesome university, and I feel very supported. So for me, that's my biggest accomplishment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we're asking her every 2 minutes different medical questions, which is awesome.
Right, exactly.
I would stay on that same track with you two. I would have to agree, being a teenage mom and being able to complete my master's after having 4 kids. And, so I'm working on my master's, nursing the baby, but I got it done, and that's like one of the best accomplishments for me, was being able to do that, because you're considered a statistic, teenage mom. You're not gonna, right. You're not gonna amount to anything. You're gonna always be poor on social service. That's the statistic. That's where we stand. But we all sit here today with something different. So yeah, I would say thank the Lord for everything, and also my husband for being there to help with the kids while I work on my degree and things like that. Because having that support system, which we spoke about on our last show, without the support system, it would have made it even harder to do.
Definitely needed.
Right. I know for me, leaving my full-time 9-to-5 job, opening my daycare, that was like a big step for me. But I love it. It's very successful now. But when I first started, it was kind of slow, but then it picked up. But that was like one of my biggest achievements, because I did it on my own,
Yeah.
So.
The 2 extroverts.
Are you guys speechless?
This is really funny because we're never the speechless ones. And I made a conscious decision to say I would answer the question last, and she did the same thing, I bet. She did.
So we're gonna have
Extroverts
to
do that
write this
sometimes.
down, that they're speechless right now.
Yes.
Well.
I'll defer to you, and I'll go last.
I love my sissy. One of my major achievements is when I met Sam Fine. Now, those in the makeup industry know that he's one of the biggest makeup legends. And when I met him in Atlanta, I made an impression on him. Flash forward 10, 12 years later, I met him again in Baltimore, and he knew exactly who I was. So that was a major accomplishment. And not to say, let me just tell you this piece. Last month, he spoke to me on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he did. So that is an accomplishment, okay? So yeah, and all my friends who know that I love him, they all fell out. Yeah,
That's great.
That's an achievement.
That's good.
Definitely.
Nice.
Good recognition.
So I think for me, my greatest accomplishment would definitely be being a teenage mother and graduating from high school on time with a toddler, going straight to college, and then taking a break for a few years, going back for my master's, starting the master's program pregnant with one son, ending in 3 years pregnant with the youngest, and nursing. And so I have to say my biggest champion supporter was my husband, because, you know, having newborns and young children and balancing home life, he kind of took over. There were nights I had to meet in groups and he had to be on the front lines. And so I think that's my greatest accomplishment that we all did. All of us up here that were teen mothers beat the statistic. And for me, breaking a generational curse, because my son is 28 and we have a 19-year-old, and you know, from there we have 5 children, and we are not grandparents of any children that are teenagers. So that, and then I think in terms of just me, fighting through and deciding that what I wanted to life coach and working with clients, seeing them set their goal from implementation, from goal setting to implementation to facilitation of what it is to execution, and seeing them achieve it, and one particular client still walking in her purpose with her business. That for me
That's rewarding.
would be, that would be it.
Awesome. What about you, Shar? Lynn? You shared your... I want to hear it again.
It was so exciting to hear, right? So on that note, we will be right back.
You're a little close, ain't you?
Well, I can have more space. I'm smaller than you.
That doesn't make sense.
It does make sense. I have more space around me to spread out.
No, if you're smaller, I need more space. This is like the bed. You take up the whole bed and you... So listen, if you're gonna fight fair, here's the rules. Here's the rules. When your wife says something, you do this. Yes, ma'am. You're right.
But that's not really communicating.
You're right. Yes, ma'am.
But I need you to be real.
See? You're right. Yes, ma'am. It works. I tell you, it works for everything.
Real rule, communicate and be honest about your feelings.
Yes, ma'am. No, but you have to communicate. You have to communicate. So if you hold things in, then it leads for a bigger argument in the future.
They start to fester. You start to build some resentment. And then before you know it, you're not fighting about the actual issue. You're fighting about something entirely different. So this is what we're going to be talking about.
But I think the key to knowing who you're fighting your partner, your lover, your best friend. So it's a disagreement. At the end of the day, I ain't going nowhere. So when you're fighting, it's not disagreeing, not fighting. You still want to be mindful of what you say. It's not about hurting the person. It's about coming to a common ground.
You think you're not going anywhere.
I love you. Life is perfect.
Join us Saturday, June 9th for the 2nd annual Why Did I Get Married Love Conference, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Rochester, New York at the Hilton Garden Inn.
Yes, ma'am.
We know why we got married. Do you?
Do you?
Hello, welcome to Strictly Health with myself, Dr. Yvette Conyers, family nurse practitioner. So we have been discussing making mistakes, and we talked about the Starbucks incident last month. Today, May 29th, we know the CEO is going to be shutting down the company for day-long training on racial bias. There's been a lot of discussion on racial bias training, or really, can it have any impact on if it's going to help or not? I want to just take a minute to talk about what unconscious or implicit bias is, It really occurs when people are making decisions based on stereotypes without being aware that these stereotypes actually have influences on their decisions. The training that people are taking is really about going through those subconscious or hidden thoughts and how they're going to carry out into actions explicit bias, such as discrimination. It's playing out in many ways. Education, discipline of our children, bias is playing out, as well as the penal justice system. We know in justice who's being killed more, unfortunately, are Black boys and Black girls. Also in business, implicit bias can contribute to lack of mentoring, performance reviews. If you think about marketing and in-services, racial bias is in a lot of things. And then lastly, healthcare. The Institute of Medicine in 2003 came out with this report on unequal treatment. It said that there are racial healthcare disparities, and unfortunately, many of them exist because of unconscious bias, right? So that lack of communication, that lack of care that's offered to individuals. There are certain racial groups, unfortunately, who are not giving adequate pain medication, who are receiving less referrals for cardiac surgery, for transplants, all because of their race. Now, no healthcare provider is going around saying, I want to treat people unfairly, but unfortunately this is happening. There are some things being done. In many curriculums, there is implicit bias training taking place, and there is also something called the Implicit Association Test, or IAT. That is something that many people do take, especially in healthcare, to really see if there is a quicker reaction to one group versus another. So for example, we see a white boy, we see a Black boy, what is going to be our reaction to both? And unfortunately, our reaction to the white boy is positive, our reaction to the Black boy is negative. And this is in healthcare. So ladies, question for you is, how do you think we should best go about it in healthcare, making sure that racial biases doesn't contribute to lack of healthcare services for people who identify as Black or Hispanic or any other underrepresented groups? Loaded question, I know.
Starts with the individual knowing their rights as a patient and standing up for those rights and demanding them.
I think we need to think like the kids. They all play together. They don't look at color. They don't look at, she's Black, so I can't play with her. They see each other as being equal. And I think in healthcare, that should be a given when you see kids come in regardless of their color. They should still be treated the same. And I have an example of how I was treated. When I first moved to New Jersey, you know, we had social service, so I had Medicaid, and when I went in, I had to wait forever to get service. It was horrible. Then I started working at MetLife, had MetLife insurance. Hi, Mrs. Elliott. Like, it was just a whole different, same hospital, same doctors, same nurses, same people that I would check in with, total different experience. So I've seen that personally done to me. So it's sad, and it shouldn't be seen as, you know, they have lower insurance, they're poor, or anything like that. Everyone should be treated equally.
So I agree, and I also would say that a lot of times we hear people say, I don't see color. That's really not true. We do see color, and unconscious bias lets us know that we do see color. We do react to certain things. We do react to Black. We do react to white. We do have those reactions where if a white person may see someone walking down the street, a Black man, they may clutch their purse, they may move to the other side. Those are some of those program things that we've been taught through social media, through the news, through conversations in our family, and those are things that trickle down from generation to generation. And again, no healthcare provider is saying, I'm doing this intentionally. It's those deep down embedded unconscious thoughts that come to action or can come to action and can wind up hurting the patient before us.
I think three things that I think about while I was sitting here listening. Well, three things we should do: educate, advocate, and infiltrate. So for me, when I think about being a teen mom at 15 and wanting to nurse my son, I turned 16 a couple months before I had our oldest. The different way that I was treated even by the medical professional, from the doctor's office to having a cesarean section, I had a C-section with all my children, but there was a difference in how the OB treated me back then. Even the lactation consultant, I can't even say I remember a lactation consultant coming in my room at 15 or 16, even with me expressing the desire to nurse. And just different questions I was asked when I would go to appointments. They would defer a lot of questions to my mother, or they wouldn't go in depth with questions. And fast forward, when I had our next son, you know, about, there's like a difference of like 11 or 12 years in my 20s. Still some bias there, but then once I got in my career and had the third child, big differences. I mean, a private doctor, lactation consultants around my bed, I mean, constantly. Lots of education I was provided with. It was almost as if I wasn't deserving of getting the information when I was younger because of whatever bias they had in their mind. And even with me working with my young parents, I've had to help them advocate for themselves with going to appointments when I've worked with teen mothers. And getting they feel uncomfortable asking questions because they feel that they're not going to be answered. And so those differences in terms of advocating or educating yourself about your rights, advocating for yourself and other people you know that are being disenfranchised because of the system, and then infiltrating the system in ways that are policy related. Because the only way you can really defeat it, I think, is getting in the pockets of these healthcare companies and businesses. That's just my opinion.
I think it definitely takes conversation to happen. We can't not make conversation. And again, we talked about the CEO incident earlier. Conversation and that training, you better believe is going to be happening. We can't be afraid to speak about it. And a lot of times I may hear someone say, slavery was a long time ago. We just got to get over it. And yeah, there are also biases with gender, also biases with age. But the disparity, and then one of the highest disparities, is unfortunately with race. So again, training is being done in the healthcare curriculum to try to address these things. But be an advocate for yourself, as you said. We got to speak up, and we got to say if we feel that we are being discriminated or stereotyped, because we got to stick together.
Absolutely.
Advocate for yourself.
Now, do you guys think this training will help?
I think it starts a dialogue. I mean, nothing's going to solve anything in one shot. But I think it definitely is going to put some motion into action. And the spotlight is on the company across the country. So it's definitely going to put them on notice.
Right.
I agree, it's better to do something than not to do anything at all. And we have to start the dialogue.
And even if you educate, if they're being trained, then and if things are being written, I always say the way that you can get to something when it comes to race, when you go back to money. And so when lawsuits start coming out because we're educating ourselves about what they're being educated on, we could then go back and say, wait a minute, this here is not right. And I think you may not be able to change a mindset, but people will need to change their behaviors once you start getting them in their pockets.
Right. I feel like this is going to be a movement, or hoping this will be a movement for other companies.
Exactly.
But you also have to look at who's training this. Is it somebody that is educated in this area?
I would have to think.
The expert?
Right.
You know? So, and it's like, and if not, then what?
Then what?
You know, I think about stuff like that. Like, okay, I want to know who's training.
Right.
Are they experts at this? You know?
They could also have a hidden agenda.
And I'm not, you know, not in a negative way, but this is how I think. You know, I think like this because he's shutting down 8,000 of his company for a training. And, you know, I'm just like, okay, well, who's training this?
I mean, we still have a world, and the world has so many different people that make up the world. Not everybody's going to conform, but yet it is a step,
Right.
Because racism is it still exists from all of these years. I mean, but it's a step. You know?
Yeah.
I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to say I was just reminded, and I totally forgot about this. I was the reason my company that I worked at shut down our company for 3 days and did diversity training because of an incident that had directly impacted me. And it was because of my relationship with the CEO of the company. He knew what kind of person I was. And for me to have that kind of a complaint, he took it very seriously. But what I didn't know, that they already had a suit against them that somebody actually settled for because of the same issue. But then when it happened to me, it caused a big dialogue. Did it change everybody? No. But they knew it wasn't going to be tolerated anymore there. They were on notice.
That's what's important, the step, the movement. So hoping everybody would get on board.
And sadly to say, there was backlash afterwards. So even though the CEO had my back,
course.
but there was a lot of backlash.
Of
Because,
course.
Yeah.
So
And you will have that.
But I wasn't afraid. I'll still speak up to this day.
yeah,
Try me.
yeah, you have to. You have to.
And this is Strictly Health.
Look and feel amazing at Beauty for Ashes Makeup Artistry. Fashion, beauty, bridal, cinema, television, makeup artist Rosalind Matthew does it all. At Beauty for Ashes Makeup Artistry, we can take you from ordinary to extraordinary with breathtaking, classic, trendy, sophisticated looks suited to enhance your natural beauty. Beauty for Ashes Makeup Artistry hosts a lovely atmosphere suited for a queen. Call today for your winning look at 585-415-4509. Beauty for Ashes Makeup Artistry. We see the beauty in you inside and out.
Hi, this is our Mompreneur section. Please check out this interview.
I'm Asanta Kynes of Be Renewed LLC. I am the owner and operator. I've been in business for a year now, been a cosmetologist for 10 years and a trichologist for 2 years. My business focuses on hair loss restoration and protective styling. I do hair, I do YouTube videos, but I would like to offer the Rochester area something for women that will help grow their hair back. So hair restoration services. My main focus in business right now is to establish a trichology clinic. I'm going to be pioneering the first trichology clinic here that is more minority focused. I have some really good innovative equipment. I'm not going to launch and put it out there until it's really where I want it to be. But I do want Rochester to know that there is hope with hair restoration. My hair restoration services will not just treat hair, but it will treat the body holistically, how you perceive your hair loss, from treatment plans, scoping services, cranioprosthesis, which are medical wigs, not just regular wigs. So giving all nationalities of women the opportunity to have a goal and to grow their hair back. A lot of women deal with depression, so we'll even have a psychologist or a therapist on board, connections with dermatologists, connections with endocrinologists, so that there's a group of people that if I cannot service you, then I'll have somebody I can refer you to. I have a YouTube channel as well that shows tutorials and informational videos on the same subject. I currently have 60K subscribers on YouTube, which is a huge accomplishment for my business. I do tutorials on hair loss, hair restoration, protective styling. My main thing is crochet styles. That's one of the most popular tutorials right now. My most satisfying moment in business is when my video went viral on YouTube. It gave me exposure to talk to women. I hit 60K and the video actually hit 2 million on Facebook. So this opened up so many doors for Be Renewed. It gave me exposure online. It also gave my clients kind of a feel of who I was before they even come to me. They have this opportunity to kind of go on and see what I do at a more international level. So they get to see videos. They get to see who I am before they come and sit in my chair. Being an entrepreneur has affected my family life. I feel like the demand of my time is kind of split in 4. So I have to find a happy medium to balance, family life, kids, my husband, and then my clients. My clients kind of have like my life in their hands. So I've actually formulated a way that I can service my clients, still spend time with my family, which now I don't do any hair on the weekend. And I've dedicated that time to my kids and my husband. It can get really demanding, even having a time where you don't talk, don't answer questions, don't do any emails, because I have to devote my time, being a mom and being a wife as well as being an entrepreneur. So the biggest mistake I've made in business was starting Trichology Services before I was actually ready for the demand. The clients came in so fast because there's a demand for hair loss. And if you're not ready to do something before it's time and not formulating a plan, it can fail. Doesn't matter how talented you are, you need to have an order of operations, a client list, and being able to call these people back. And now I have 30 clients and I'm just a one-woman show. So not having that preparation, now I had to kind of take a step back and stop doing what I love to do just to get it the right way so that I can do it in excellence. What motivates me in my business is the last satisfied customer. When they tell me their testimonies and they tell me, my hair actually grew and my hair has changed texture. So it motivates me. In addition to my kids and my husband, seeing them, experience things that we've never experienced before because of being an entrepreneur, and being able to give my kids more of my time because I'm flexible with how I can work, and then showing them that, whatever you put your mind to, you can do. They motivate me to keep going and to keep pressing. And literally being able to touch so many women all over the world and hearing that, my gift helped them. That's what motivates me. The best advice I would give someone that is ready to start a business is to definitely write it down, plan it out, have a vision, preparation. I believe that, you can have talent and you can have even a provision with the talent, but you need to have a solid plan and preparation. Talent will only get you as far as your character will allow you. So I believe that, even with me starting a business, I had the talent, but preparation is really what made my business successful. So planning, preparing, doing your research, being somebody that has a heart of servitude, because you need to be able to serve and go above and beyond for for customer service. Customer service is huge. So having a heart of servitude is big. Having a projection, goals, where you want to see yourself. And also, just as much as you plan for success, plan for failure. That is like the biggest thing.
Thank you for tuning in to Strictly Business. Please join us next week as we discuss leadership. See you then.